Do you ever wonder how the seemingly distant issue of climate change might be knocking at your doorstep? Picture warmer weather breeding increasingly destructive storms and rising sea levels causing recurrent flooding. Picture homes destroyed, businesses closed, incomes lost, and families displaced. This is not a dystopian fantasy, but the reality of climate change's impact on local communities. In the face of this crisis, two terms come to the fore: climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. They are sometimes used interchangeably, yet they carry distinct meanings. Climate change mitigation is like the brakes on a speeding vehicle. It's about reducing or preventing the onslaught of climate change to mitigate its severe impact. It involves actions like reducing greenhouse gas emissions, decreasing reliance on fossil fuels, promoting clean, renewable energy sources, halting deforestation, and increasing forest cover. On the other hand, climate change adaptation is like learning to steer and navigate the speeding vehicle. It involves adjusting to a changing climate as it unfolds, aiming to minimize the damage caused by climate change. This could include implementing large-scale infrastructure changes, developing emergency response plans, managing resources effectively, and establishing systems to cope with weather-related disasters. Interestingly, adaptation also involves seizing potential opportunities arising from climate change, such as extended growing seasons for crops, and the introduction of new crop varieties that can withstand changing weather conditions. Now you might be wondering, what can I do? There are countless ways to contribute to climate change mitigation and adaptation. From making small lifestyle changes like reducing energy consumption and waste, to supporting renewable energy and sustainable agriculture, to advocating for climate policies, every action counts. It's vital to remember that the fight against climate change is not a solitary battle, but a collective effort. Together, we can build a sustainable future for the next generation. It's time to act now, not tomorrow or the day after. Consider this not just an invitation, but a call to action. Our planet needs us, and we need our planet. Act today for a better tomorrow. Have you ever wondered how climate change might impact the world's second most populous country, India? Today we're going to delve into the subject, exploring the impact of climate change on India's economy and population. India, known for its diverse culture and rapidly growing economy, is currently the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases globally. But this isn't just about the gases India emits. The country sits at a precarious intersection of climate change due to its geographical positioning and heavy reliance on agriculture. Now, you might be wondering, what does this mean for India's economy? Well, it's been estimated that if emissions aren't significantly reduced, India could face economic losses of $35 trillion US dollars. Yes, you heard that right, 35 trillion? The impact of climate change isn't a distant threat. It's happening right now. In 2021 alone, India experienced a series of extreme weather events, including cyclones, a glacier collapse, heat waves, and floods. The Reserve Bank of India has noted significant changes in India's climatic patterns, including shifts in rainfall and an increase in extreme weather events. These changes have profound implications for India's economy. Approximately 44% of India's working population is employed in agriculture and allied sectors, which contribute about 20% of the GDP. Extreme weather in agricultural states, therefore, has a direct impact on employment and GDP. But the threat doesn't end there. India is also one of the countries most vulnerable to the impact of accelerated sea level rise due to its long coastline and large number of islands. This puts about 170 million people living in coastal regions at risk. The potential impacts are staggering. The Swiss Re Institute estimates a 35% reduction in the level of India's GDP by 2050 if greenhouse gas emissions are not reduced globally. Oxford Economics estimates that India's GDP could be 90% lower in 2100 than it would be if there was no climate change. These numbers paint a sobering picture. They highlight the urgency of addressing climate change, not only for the sake of the environment, but for the economy and livelihoods of millions of people. So, What can be done? The answer lies in sustainable practices and innovative financing models. Banks are encouraged to integrate sustainability into their business strategy and decision-making processes. This means supporting environmentally responsible and sustainable projects in the agriculture sector. Climate change is a vast, complex issue, but it is also an issue where every bit of knowledge, every step towards sustainability can make a difference. It's time to delve deeper, to learn more about climate change and its impact on countries like India. Because the more we know, the better we can combat this global crisis. Together, we can create a more sustainable future for India, for the world.
Have you ever pondered the ripple effects of a warming planet on a nation's economy and food security? Let's take India as a case study. The subcontinent, known for its rich cultural heritage and diverse gastronomy, is at a critical juncture. Findings from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, point to a grim future where climate change could drastically impact India's economy and food security. Let's unpack this complex issue. The IPCC's Working Group 2 report, Climate Impacts, Adaptation and Vulnerability, highlights that India is among the countries that will bear the brunt of economic damage inflicted by climate change. Why is this so? The report points to several reasons. The most alarming is the prediction that heat and humidity in India may exceed human tolerance levels. In essence, a combination of extreme heat and high humidity, measured as wet bulb temperatures, could potentially make parts of India uninhabitable. Additionally, rising sea levels pose a significant threat. The report estimates that by mid-century, approximately 35 million people in India could face annual coastal flooding. If greenhouse gas emissions remain unchecked, this number could potentially rise to 45 to 50 million by the end of the century. But the ripple effects don't stop there. Climate change could also compromise India's food production and security. This threat extends beyond India's borders, impacting global supply chains, markets, and trade, resulting in economic shocks worldwide. The report also warns that by 2050, around 40% of India's population could face water scarcity, a significant increase from the current 33%. This scarcity could lead to increased flooding in the Ganges and Brahmaputra river basins if global warming exceeds 1.5 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, India's agricultural output is at high risk. The yields of staple crops like rice, wheat, pulses, coarse grains, and cereals could drop by about 9% by 2050. If emissions remain high, maize production in the south could decrease by 17%. Despite these challenges, the report notes that adaptation strategies in Indian cities currently focus on only one or two threats, often neglecting the compounding nature of disasters. So what does all this mean? India is at the forefront of climate change impacts, grappling with the potential of extreme heat, rising sea levels, compromised food security, and water scarcity. These challenges not only threaten the livelihood and well-being of millions of Indians, but also have the potential to create economic shocks felt around the globe. But there's a silver lining. By understanding these challenges and implementing comprehensive adaptation strategies, India and the world can mitigate some of these risks. However, adaptation is not a substitute for emission reductions. If global warming continues unabated, the consequences could be dire. The bottom line, climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's an economic one, a social issue, and above all, a survival issue. And it's high time that we all take it seriously.
Have you ever wondered about India's role in climate change? As the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases globally, India's impact on climate change is significant and increasing. But how did we get here, and where are we headed? In the past, India's emissions were relatively low. However, with a booming population and rapid industrial growth, the situation has changed dramatically. According to the International Energy Agency, India emitted over 2,299 million tons of carbon dioxide in 2018, marking a 4.8% increase from the year before. As we move forward, the scenario appears even more challenging. current projections suggest that India's future emissions are not in line with the goals of the Paris Agreement. India's nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, correspond to a temperature increase between 3 and 4 degrees Celsius, far above the Paris Agreement's aim to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. This discrepancy became evident at the COP26 summit, where India promised to achieve net zero emissions by 2070, 20 years later than the global target of 2050. The task of reducing emissions is a daunting one for India, a developing economy with a per capita energy consumption that is 1/3 of the global average. Moreover, India's per capita emissions are 7 times lower than the US, 3.4 times lower than China, and 3 times lower than Europe. Yet the urgency of combating climate change demands ambitious emission reductions. Financial implications are equally significant. A 2021 financial stability report estimated that India would require at least $2.5 trillion for meeting its climate change actions between 2016 and 2030. The International Energy Agency adds that nearly 60% of India's CO2 emissions in the late 2030s will come from infrastructure and machines that are yet to be built. To make this investment sustainable, an additional $1.4 trillion is needed over the next 2 decades. Green bonds could provide some of this funding. Although currently making up a small portion of all bond issuance in India, the rate of green bond issuance is on the rise, with $8.5 billion of green, sustainable, or social bonds issued in 2021. While addressing climate change brings financial risks, it also presents opportunities. For instance, the development of a derivatives market could aid adaptation efforts. Agricultural commodity derivatives could reduce risks through continuous price discovery and hedging, while weather derivatives could hedge the risks of high-probability, low-risk events. In conclusion, India's role in climate change is complex and evolving. Each one of us has a responsibility to understand the implications of climate change and take action. So, delve deeper into this issue, learn more about climate change, and explore the ways you can contribute to a sustainable future, because every action counts, and it's never too late to make a difference.
Have you ever wondered about the escalating temperatures in India? And what about the impact it will have on our future generations? India, a nation celebrated for its cultural and climatic diversity, once cherished the arrival of summer. The season was synonymous with vacations and indulging in the freshest fruits and vegetables. But fast forward to today, these tales of joy are only to be found within the pages of Ruskin Bond's books, or those of early Indian authors. The summer of today is significantly unlike that of the late 1990s. The temperatures have been soaring, with some regions experiencing a scorching 50 degrees Celsius. Here are some alarming facts about climate change, confirmed by none other than NASA. The average global temperature has risen by 2.1 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. The Arctic ice is shrinking at a rate of 13.1% per decade. The global sea level has been rising at the rate of 3.3 millimeters per year over the last century, and atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are at their highest in 650,000 years, at approximately 415 parts per million. The implications of such temperature rise are far-reaching. Apart from heat waves, it brings about agricultural effects and health risks. Our simple way of life is being disrupted. The most serious of these changes is the rapid melting of global glaciers. A report by the World Economic Forum reveals that glacier melt has accelerated globally in the last 2 decades, contributing to 21% of the corresponding rise in global sea levels. A study warns that rising sea levels could put India's largest cities in the flood risk zone by 2050, affecting an estimated 36 million people, about 31 million more than initially estimated. Experts predict that West Bengal, coastal Odisha, and Kolkata will be particularly affected by flooding. Also, the southern region of India, due to its proximity to the eastern and western Ghats, is extensively vulnerable. Despite the urgency, countless individual volunteers, government agencies, and NGOs are working relentlessly to create awareness and combat this menace. India's pursuit of a sustainable future leans heavily on the power of artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML. These technologies offer transformative solutions across various sectors, helping combat climate change and drive sustainable development. They play a pivotal role in optimizing renewable energy production and consumption, ensuring efficient and reliable clean energy sources. In agriculture, they enable precision farming techniques that minimize the environmental impact and improve crop yields, safeguarding livelihoods against climate change effects. In conclusion, it is evident that the rising temperatures in India are a grave concern for future generations. It is our responsibility to do our part in combating climate change. Whether it is reducing our carbon footprint, supporting renewable energy sources, or simply spreading awareness about the issue, every action counts. Remember, there is no planet B.
Have you ever stopped to consider the language of our planet? The whispers of the wind, the chatter of birds, the silent growth of a seedling into a towering tree. How well do we understand this language? And how well do we, as inhabitants of Earth, communicate with our environment? This thought brings us to the concept of environmental literacy. Imagine the story of a small town nestled in the heart of a lush forest. The people of this town live in harmony with nature, understanding its cycles and respecting its boundaries. They know when to plant their crops, when to harvest, which plants are beneficial and which are harmful. They understand the signs of an approaching storm or a change in season. They've learned the language of their environment. This, dear listeners, is environmental literacy. But this tale is not just a story, it's a reflection of a time when environmental literacy was a natural part of existence. When the boundaries between humans and nature were blurred, but as time passed, this connection diminished. We built concrete jungles, our hands more accustomed to keyboards than soil. We traded the songs of birds for the hum of machines, and in the process we lost our environmental literacy. Reclaiming this literacy is not just about understanding the environment, it's about realizing our role within it, acknowledging our impact, and taking responsibility for our actions. It empowers us to make informed decisions, to choose renewable energy sources, to recycle, to reduce deforestation. It fosters a sense of connection and responsibility towards nature, encouraging us to respect the rights and needs of all living beings and support conservation efforts. Being environmentally literate also prompts us to act for environmental justice and sustainability. It encourages us to join environmental movements, advocate for policies that protect our planet, and volunteer for causes that help maintain the balance of our ecosystems. It teaches us that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger picture of environmental preservation. Furthermore, environmental literacy enhances our well-being and quality of life. It opens our eyes to the physical and mental health benefits of spending time in nature, promoting happiness, resilience, and a sense of harmony with our surroundings. It's a reminder that we're not just on this planet, we're a part of it. In conclusion, environmental literacy is a critical skill for the 21st century. It's a tool that allows us to comprehend the language of our planet, to make informed decisions, to foster a sense of connection and responsibility towards nature, to act for environmental justice and sustainability, and to improve our overall well-being and quality of life. It's time we reclaim this literacy and restore the harmony between humans and nature. After all, we share the same language, the language of Earth.
Have you ever pondered how climate change and sustainability could be integrated into our education system? Well, India has taken a bold step in this direction. Starting from the academic year of 2023 to 2024, all university students in India will be required to study subjects such as environmental education and climate change to graduate. This directive comes from the University Grants Commission, the country's higher education apex body, and is aligned with the national obligation to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This new course is not limited to any specific field of study. Whether you're studying engineering, medical, architecture, pharmacy, or management, you will find environmental studies as a compulsory core subject. The curriculum is designed to be multidisciplinary, covering areas such as climate change, sustainable development, conservation and management of biological resources, pollution, sanitation, waste management, and forest and wildlife protection. The decision to make environment education a main subject stems from a growing realization of the urgent need for practical knowledge and action rather than mere theoretical understanding. institutions have been given the flexibility to decide how best to deliver this subject. However, the University Grants Commission stresses that course design should be rooted in community engagement, practical understanding of environmental threats, and value-based education focused on environmental protection and sustainable development. This new policy is seen as a significant stride towards mainstreaming environmental education. It comes at a time when India has experienced a series of extreme weather events, from devastating heat waves to unprecedented floods and landslides, believed to be triggered by climate change and environmental imbalance. The mandatory course can equip students with a deeper understanding of the science behind these environmental issues and provide them with the tools to address them. The effectiveness of this compulsory course, however, will depend on the depth and breadth of its coverage. There are calls for climate change topics to be integrated into the curriculum in a detailed and specialized manner. Students could be educated on topics such as carbon taxes and other issues that intersect the environment and economy. In sum, India's new policy of making environmental education a compulsory core subject for all university students is a significant step towards raising awareness and fostering action against climate change and for sustainability. It highlights the growing recognition of the crucial role education plays in tackling these global challenges. This policy could potentially shape a generation of students who are not merely aware of environmental issues, but are equipped with the knowledge and tools to address them.
Have you ever wondered how climate change is being tackled in India? Well, let's dive right in and explore the top 5 non-governmental organizations or NGOs that are making a difference. First up, we have Balaji Sewa Sansthan, or BSS India. Based in Dehradun, this NGO has been working tirelessly since 2002 to promote hygiene, clean water, and social and cultural equality. But that's not all. BSS India also champions environmental issues and the use of sustainable equipment powered by renewable resources like solar energy. They've teamed up with big names such as Philips and D-Light India to promote smokeless stoves and solar lanterns in Uttarakhand. Next on our list is Assist, an NGO that believes in the development of India's villages. Established in 1985, Assist focuses on education, sanitation, and skill development in rural Andhra Pradesh. They also tackle environmental issues, water scarcity, and societal development. One of their key initiatives is to provide clean water for domestic and industrial use, helping rural populations combat the water shortages caused by climate change. Thirdly, we have Haridika, an NGO that was founded in 1994 to battle the effects of climate change and improve the standard of living in Bundelkhand. They've been proactive in managing natural resources, working on sustainable projects, and taking initiatives for water harvesting and management. They also focus on optimizing agriculture, conserving soil, and combating deforestation. Fourth on our roster is the Technology Informatics Design Endeavor, or TIDE. With over 250 projects under their belt, this innovative NGO focuses on creating a sustainable environment through revolutionary technology. Their initiative, Vidyut Rakshaka, offers customized electricity-saving recommendations, ensuring sustainable consumption. They also conduct awareness programs on climate change in various schools in Bangalore and Chennai. Last but certainly not least, we have Abhinav. This NGO works tirelessly to spread awareness about clean drinking water, hygiene, and sanitation in towns and villages near Muzaffarnagar, Uttar Pradesh. They also manage waste effectively and help communities combat the ill effects of climate change. In addition, they promote skill development among rural and disadvantaged people, support destitute senior citizens, and encourage the use of modern technology in agricultural activities. In the face of climate change, these 5 NGOs are making a difference one day at a time. They're tackling the threat of a global disaster head-on, especially the temperature rise we're witnessing every day. Remember, you can make a difference too. Support these NGOs, help spread awareness, and be part of the solution. Because when it comes to climate change, every effort counts.